Imposter syndrome is a kind of self-doubt where we feel like I am not the person that people think I am. I am a fraud and I'm just faking it, and one day everyone's gonna figure it out and it's not gonna be pretty. When you have imposter syndrome, you think things to yourself like, I haven't earned this, I don't deserve it, I just got lucky, I'm incompetent, I'm incapable. Usually you feel imposter syndrome in a specific circumstance. Like, let's say at school, you place into an honors class and you're like, oh man, I really shouldn't be in that honors class. It's like, yeah, sure, I took the test, whatever, but I guess I got lucky. This imposter syndrome can be in many different areas of life. School, job, it could even be something like being a parent. Anywhere where you feel like there is a role that you should be filling that people expect certain things of, and you're like, I am not actually there and I'm kind of just faking my way through it. More generally speaking, I believe that there is a form of imposter syndrome that is linked to your personality type, whatever of the 16 personalities you are, and it's a little weird because from the outside it might not seem like imposter syndrome, because imposter syndrome requires a role that you think you're filling as well as expectations that other people have. And I'm just caught. When you have a personality type, one of the 16 personalities, basically what that's doing, the type, is driving you to feel responsible to fill a certain role. Now that role is kind of abstract and broad, but it is like the type's role in humanity. I mean, when you think about it, what does the word personality mean? It comes from is it Greek or Latin? It comes from one of those old languages, the word for mask. It comes from the theater. The mask that actors would wear was called a persona, and that was basically synonymous, if I recall my Drama 101 correctly, with the role they played in the play. So when we're talking about personality types, it's not even really talking about your identity, it's talking about the role that you unconsciously, like without realizing it, are filling from day to day in your life. So the specific imposter syndrome for your type is basically like you're thinking without thinking this specifically, without realizing this is what's going on. I am not my type. I am not good enough at what my type is supposed to be good enough to actually be that type, and it's really causing me anxiety, self-doubt, insecurity, that one day I'm gonna be found out for this. So let's start to illustrate by looking at specific types and what their specific imposter syndrome thought might be. Starting with the ENTJ and the ESTJ, who have dominant extroverted thinking, which in short means that the main driving force in their life is that they feel responsible to get things done. Hey, there is a to-do list and I just need to like pick out those things that need to be done and do them. So for those types, the imposter syndrome is telling them, the thought they have is, I'm not getting anything done, or I can't get anything done. I'm incapable of it. When I get things done, that's just luck. I'm just kind of faking it here. They can also think things like, my work isn't going anywhere. There's no point. It can even go so far as to be like, I'm holding other people back. I'm letting down my team. So using this example, I want to point out why these specific thoughts would be the imposter syndrome for these specific types, because other types could think these same things, but then just move on. They could be like, yeah, I'm not working hard enough, moving on. Like an INFP would be like, oh man, I can't get anything done. Anyway, I'm gonna go read a book. Like, they'll just be like, yeah, that's my weakness. Okay, you got me there. But it's not just naturally something that's going through their mind. Oh crap, I'm not getting enough done, oh no. So flip it around, ENTJ and ESTJ, they just have that natural drive towards playing that role of the guy or the girl who gets stuff done. Now let's move on before I belabor the point to the ENFJ and ESFJ, the dominant extroverted feeling types. And for them, it's interesting because their imposter thoughts will center around something like, I can't get my priorities straight, or I don't care enough about the things that I should care about. Maybe even like, I don't know what's important anymore. Like, I'm just confused on that. An extreme example, let's say an ESFJ, someone that they know, they're not extremely close with, but just someone in their circle passes away. Let's say in this particular circumstance, the ESFJ just like doesn't feel anything. They don't feel sad, they're not crying. This imposter syndrome is going to be like, why don't I care about this? Why am I not sad that this person, my acquaintance or whatever, passed away? The ENFJ and ESFJ are very focused on like, what is the appropriate emotional response? So they put a lot of pressure on themselves to make sure that they respond in the way that they think is correct. Many other types might have this same experience and just be like, yeah, but you know, maybe this is just my own way of grieving and it's okay because, you know, everyone reacts differently. But ESFJs and ENFJs can get caught on that. It could be anything that should be of importance in their mind to them. You know, maybe it's like a political issue and they're like, I really should feel strongly about this, but I don't care. And that really bothers me that I don't care. Or maybe it's like, I'm spending all my time doing these things, but I don't care about these things. Why am I not doing these other things that I should care about? And they will think of themselves as being like these cold, callous people. But the thing is, you wouldn't get hung up on it unless you had extroverted feelings to be like, hey, it's messed up that I have an inappropriate reaction. And this is where the whole typing thing comes in, because a lot of people will recognize this. They'll be very aware that I am a fraud in this sense. I am not doing what I should, what my type should be doing, and therefore I'm not my type. With the extroverted sensing types, ESFP and ESTP, they have extroverted sensing as their dominant function, and that is, you know, about living kind of in the present moment, about being very aware of just like what's around me and not going too much into the future or the past. Let's stay current with reality as it's happening, because like this is where life is. So their imposter thoughts are like, I can't keep up. Yeah, right, I'm not an ESTP. I can barely keep up with whatever it is, the technological trends, or like what's going on with my friend group. They'll get this worry like, I am falling behind. I'm not doing what I should be, which is staying on top of everything. And when I say staying on top of things, that's not in terms of like work, like doing things, keeping things organized. It's really just like keeping an eye on everything, being aware of everything that is going on. The ESTP and ESFP will feel like I am just disconnected. Like I really got no clue. I'm just head in the clouds. And this is why you'll get a lot of these types who type themselves upside down as INFJs or INTJs, because they're like, well, I'm terrible at, you know, playing that extroverted sensing role. I'm not doing what I should do. Likewise with ENFPs and ENTPs, the extroverted intuitive types, they will really get down on themselves if it's like, I don't have any new ideas. They will think to themselves, I am stuck in a rut. I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. I've got no creativity. I'm not innovating at all. In fact, I'm going backwards. I'm regressing. Now, this would be a good time to remind you that when I'm saying all these things, they could be true in many different circumstances. Like, you could actually in your life be regressing. The point is that when you have this imposter syndrome of your type, you can be thinking these things when that's not the case at all. Because your type is telling you, you've got to set the bar up here, and normal people who aren't that type are setting it, you know, like here. So you'll be like above average and being like, man, I really should be up here. An ENFP will be having a lot of good ideas. Let's say they're a writer and they're brainstorming ideas for a novel, but it's not enough for them. So they're like, man, I'm a fraud. I'm not a creative person at all. Like, I can't figure out any cool new things. It's all stale. All these ideas I've had before. The SI types, introverted sensing, the ISFJ and ISTJ, this was a good one. And this is why a lot of people who are these types don't type themselves correctly, because their imposter syndrome thought is, I can't get my life in order. Your average ISFJ walking around doesn't know about Myers-Briggs or anything, so they're not thinking, I'm a J type, but they have the feeling of responsibility that the type gives them. So they're like, I should be organized. I should have things together. I should have a system for my life, and it's not there. My life, in fact, is a freaking mess. Now, this could go on a spectrum of like very literal to, you know, a bit more zoomed out. So it's like, my life is a mess. Oh, my bedroom is a mess. I can't get organized enough. It should be more organized. Like, I'm crap at organizing. All the way up to like, oh man, I haven't figured out my life. Like, I don't have a routine. resources. I don't know, like, what are the steps that I should be doing in order to go to the next level of my career or school. And in general, with imposter syndrome, there's like no real evidence of the thoughts that you're having, like no concrete evidence. There might be a little stuff, but really it's like you're taking it out of context. So this ISFJ or ISTJ who's like, I can't get organized. I'm not good at organization. You'll go to their house and it's like, okay, maybe there's like a few things out of place, but it's like more organized than your average person's house. But they're thinking to themselves, it should be like immaculate. It should be like so organized. I know exactly where everything is. It should all be alphabetized in a book somewhere. There's no real evidence there that they're bad at organization. It's just what they think, because relative to what their personality type is telling them they should be doing, they're not as organized as they should be. The introverted thinking types, the INTP and ISTP, they will have imposter syndrome thoughts surrounding basically like, I don't have an opinion. I don't know what my point of view on something is. A lot of types would not be bothered by not having an opinion, but I think it bothers the INTP and ISTP a lot because to them that indicates like I haven't figured out the problem behind that opinion yet. The TI types feel like I need to have like very strong defined opinions that I can really back up, at least about the things that are interesting to me. So the imposter syndrome for the INTP and ISTP, they'll be walking around being like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I think or why I think it. I don't know what's going on. A lot of this comes from these types feeling like they need to have a very high standard of logical consistency behind everything they think. A lot of people will have opinions about stuff and have no real reason behind it. You know, especially the feeler types will just be like, yeah, my opinion is this because I feel like it. For these types, especially the INTP and ISTP, that's not going to cut it. So they have to like have an intricate understanding of their opinion. It's very dismaying for them. It's very off-putting for them, and they feel like imposters when it's like, yeah, I really can't explain to you what I think about this thing that I'm interested in, and like I couldn't even begin to like start to form an opinion here. The FI types, the INFP and the ISFP, when they have imposter syndrome, think things that center around, I don't do anything that matters. What I do isn't important. Perhaps it could go so far as to be like, everything that I do actually is wrong and hurtful. Let me admit to you, I am not totally satisfied with my phrasing of this because I'm kind of mixing thinking and feeling here with the wording. If you're gonna parse my language apart, saying something like, I don't do anything that matters. So the word do, when we're talking about doing things, that's more in the thinking realm. Whereas the matters part, the important part, that's the feeling bit. So you could even phrase it more like, I don't matter. I'm not important enough. INFPs and ISFPs put so much pressure on themselves. Everyone wants to do something important, right? For the INFP and ISFP though, it's like what I have defined as important, as like the highest priority for me, that's what I want to reach for. Let me contrast it. Like most types, I feel like if they had a thought like, I'm not doing anything that matters, man, they will kind of like either just work harder or they will like not care too much about it because to them it's like external. It's not a reflection on them. But for INFPs and ISFPs, when you're not doing something important or when you care about something but you're not working towards it, you are a bad person. So a lot of the FI dominant types, they're thinking to themselves, I'm a bad person, like I am wrong about everything because I care so much, but what do I have to show for it? Maybe an ISFP is like, I really love music. That's like the most important thing to me. And my dream is to be a songwriter, but they don't really work very hard towards it. They'll get down on themselves and be like, I am not who I should be. Like I'm just faking it. I am not pouring my heart into this enough. I am not caring enough about what I should care about. And let me contrast that with, I talked about the ENFJ and ESFJ earlier, where they are very into should feels because they're like, I have to figure out what's an appropriate response. But for them, an appropriate response is like on the spectrum. Like if you had 10 people who were in this situation, how would they react? And the average reaction is the appropriate thing to feel. For the ISFP and INFP, they're more like, I know how I should feel. It's very personal to me, and if I don't feel that way, something's wrong. You get a lot of these types who feel very guilty and very insecure because even if they are like doing stuff that lines up with their values and what's important to them, they always feel like I'm just not passionate enough about it. Like I'm not flying the flag high enough for these things. Like there's always more that I could do. I could always feel more deeply about these things. Now for the introverted intuition types, the NI types, INFJ, INTJ, the big imposter syndrome thing that they have is like, I don't know where I'm going. And not like literally they're in a car, like, where am I driving? But like, where is my life going? I don't know. It's like a big cloud in front of me, and man, I really should have this all figured out. I should have 20, 30 years planned out, and I'm a fraud because I don't. I don't have a plan. What am I doing? I should have everything planned out, everything mapped out so solidly that it's just like, I don't even have to think. I just go brain dead and I go through the plan. Because that's what these types feel responsible to do, is to plan so much they don't actually have to live life. So when they're forced into living life as it comes, when they haven't come up with like an intricate plan, they're like, what am I doing? What is happening to me? A lot of times they also feel this imposter syndrome when something unexpected happens and they're like, why didn't I see that coming? Why was I blindsided by this thing? Like, I'm the guy who's supposed to be like, okay, yeah, I can kind of predict that this is gonna happen. So when they are surprised, when they're caught off guard, or when they thought something else was gonna happen, they think A is going to happen, but then B happens and they're like, oh my gosh. That's when they're like, I am terrible. I am terrible at being an INFJ or INTJ. And of course, not to belabor the point, but it's a feeling that INFJs and INTJs get when they aren't even aware of personality stuff. They won't be thinking the words, I'm a terrible INFJ, but they'll be thinking like, I should have seen that coming. Like, that's my job. That's my role in the world, is to be the guy who has a huge plan, who's able to predict everything and isn't surprised by anything. It's important to overcome imposter syndrome, whether it's personality type or a specific scenario like school or work, because if you give into this feeling of self-doubt, it's gonna hold you back in life. It's gonna keep you from doing things that you should do, that you're capable of doing, but you've talked yourself out of it because you think you're a fake. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay cool and attractive.
They say a stranger's come to town. They call him